How to bankroll your brilliance. Let me get some microphones up here for y'all. I don't know. Where's Keisha? Because she didn't know what the name of the movie was either. She just said it was on Hulu. So look up Hulu, All Girls School, Reunion, Apocalypse, and then I'm sure we will find it. All right. So let me have a seat. Please introduce yourselves to our audience.
Hello, is it on? Yes. Hello, everyone. Everyone looks so beautiful. So my name is Dr. Zakia Renee. I am a leadership development strategist and business consultant and author. My doctorate is in education and leadership studies with a focus in organizational development and management and adult learning. And I'm from Ohio, so hey.
Hi, I'm Dr. Erica Gamble. I am an author. I am an educator. I have a business. I'm also from Ohio, but I live in Atlanta.
Wow.
I have a wig boutique and a mastectomy center in Atlanta, Georgia, and I am a college professor. I have been for about 25 years. Don't know, yeah, a long time. My doctorate degree, I have a PhD in organizational leadership and behavior, and I also have a doctorate degree in health sciences with the concentration in trichology, which is the study of the skin and scalp. Don't worry about remembering all of that.
Hi. I am not a doctor.
Yes, that's okay. That's okay.
My name is Jen Bax, Jennifer on the screen, but I go by Jen, and I am the founder of Your Color Style, which we empower women in leadership to express their true selves through the language of color. And so we help women not only discover colors that flatter them and make them look good, but also have a profound impact on their confidence and to help be perceived the way they want to be perceived and to show up.
Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, so my first question is in the context of branding and bankrolling your brilliance as a brand, how do you work with individual clients or industries to help them do that?
I'll go first, I guess, if that's okay, because it's right up my alley. So what we do is when we meet our client to, first they come in usually for color. They come in for style as well, but color kind of the foundation for an image. And so when we meet with our customers, we usually kind of have a little bit of an interview about what their goals are. Why are they there? Why do they want to improve their image? What does that mean to them? And how do they want to show up? And so based on that, we will start to craft a custom color palette that represents who they are, their personal brand, maybe their company brand at the same time. If they're speakers, what might they wear, et cetera. And we kind of just focus completely on their goals. It's all about how that person feels at the end of it. And
So I'm just gonna kind of bounce off of her. Two things that I've noticed, especially over this last year when I work with clients, are people's, one, unwillingness to goal set, and two, the inability to take accountability. So let's remind ourselves of what goal setting is. It is when you are intentional about setting a certain target, whether that be for learning or mastery or accomplishment, right? The goal setting theory was established by Locke and Latham over a period of 25 years. They conducted over 400 field studies and laboratory studies, and they found that people who set harder and specific goals have a higher chance of achieving those goals. And I know for some people, what? People who set harder goals have a higher chance of achievement? Yes, because our brains are operating systems, and our brains need to be challenged. So when you set menial goals or somewhat insignificant goals, those goals tend to be things that are not or low priority, and you will naturally meet them, or they're so low priority that they're irrelevant. You're not going to take the time or put in the energy or effort to meet those goals. So one of the things you can do when it comes to goal setting is use the SMART goal setting method. I'm sure plenty of you have heard the SMART goal setting method: strategic, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So that's one. And the inability to take accountability. So people typically or like to use accountability and responsibility interchangeably, but they are not the same. Responsibility is more so the act of doing. Accountability is more so answerability or blame or authority. And one of the texts or journals that I actually read said accountability denotes professionalism and is a higher standard than responsibility. Responsibility can be delegated, accountability cannot. And I felt like that really stood out, right? And so people love taking accountability when the business is thriving or seemingly flawless. But what about when things aren't going so great? What about when everything isn't so peachy? So if you sell a product and you have a delay on being able to execute the fulfillment, notify your consumers. You have an obligation to let them know what's going on. If you have a defect on a product, set out a plan, notify your consumers, notify your stakeholders. Everybody has the right to know. You are responsible for answering to those people. And really, goal setting and accountability truly do go hand in hand. So again, you want to go through the SMART goal setting method, but then you want to come back and you want to ask yourself certain questions. So one method that I like to use when it comes to accountability has 4 components. So the first component is participation, the second is evaluation, the third is transparency, and the fourth is feedback mechanisms, right? So after you set those goals using the SMART goal setting method, come back, ask yourself questions like, okay, what goals do I have set as the leader? What goals do I have set for my organization? How am I evaluating and managing these goals? How am I evaluating and managing my progress? How transparent am I being with myself? Because, you know, some of us like to tell ourselves little white lies, and that's not going to work when you're operating a business. How transparent am I being with the stakeholders and the people who are affected by my decisions, my actions, and my inactions? Are my feedback channels open? If so, how open? And if not, how do I open those feedback channels, right? So again, goal setting and accountability go hand in hand.
Okay, well, Dr. Erica, I have a special question just for you. Well, it's for anybody, but I want to ask Dr. Erica first because you mentioned all of the things that you have going on between what your education experience is and what you do in terms of the centers that you have. Talk about diversification of a brand, because as a single person, a one-person, you have many things that contribute to you being the brand. So how did you even decide to branch out in those ways and to diversify what the brand was?
I didn't. It just happened. I'll just say this. Like I said, I've been an educator for 24 years, right? And always in higher ed. I've never done K through 12. But one thing is people would always ask, questions. And I just looked at that as an opportunity to do consulting, right? And so I branched out, started doing some consulting. And then I just decided that, and also simultaneously, I was working in corporate America. So I also worked in HR. That's my background, HR. I did HR for about 25 years. And if anybody in here knows about HR, it's very tiring. It's very draining. You take on people's issues and all of this stuff. So I just decided one day, honestly, this is a true story. I was just looking out the window. I live in Atlanta, so I don't know if anybody else does, but traffic is horrible. Probably like it is here. But I just, and I just decided to quit my job. I was VP of HR at Bank of America, and I said, I don't want to do this anymore, right? So I just quit. And I opened my wig business. Now, ironically, what happened was I was traveling all over the world. And if most of y'all know, I'm from Ohio, so I would travel a lot to Florida. By the time I left Ohio and got to Florida, I was looking like a chia pet. So, and I was one of the only brown girls in the room at the boardroom table, and I did not need my hair to be a topic of conversation. So instead of looking crazy, I'm like, let me go buy a couple of wigs, put them on so I can always make sure at least my hair is looking decent. So anyway, I decided to open up a wig boutique. Don't ask me why, I just did. But what happened was the trajectory changed. A woman walked in one day and said, I've been diagnosed with breast cancer. And I am not just going to lose my hair. I'm going to lose both of my breasts. They sent me to you from the cancer center around the corner, and I need you to help me. And honestly, that day, we cried for literally an hour. I cried for a lot of different reasons because, number one, I didn't know what to do. I didn't have the answer. I didn't know what to say. She was crying, obviously, because she was sick. Her family was with her. So I just thought about it. I'm like, man, this is a white space. Nobody's doing this in my area. So that's where I started doing research. I went back to school to get a second doctorate degree. I needed to understand what was happening in this community of hair loss, breast cancer, all of the things. And so I don't know. Then the business was
And now
just
here you are.
born. Here I am. Yeah.
and here you are. And I love that because sometimes we think we have to just fit into one box. And oftentimes there are so many different passions that we have, and you're allowed to have multiple passions as life changes. Jen, for you, when women or men or whoever are experiencing all of these different life changes and they want to sort of do something but they don't know what to do, how do you help them kind of find their path, find their way in the work that you're doing?
It sometimes seems unrelated when you talk about, color and in image and how that somehow relates to people going through changes. But it is so very well connected. We had talked, the panel before was talking about, getting to know yourself and that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I have found over the years is that, especially for me, coming into this world of color, I started at a point in my business where I had just turned 40. I was recently divorced. I was kind of still healing. I had lost my oldest daughter to cancer about a year before that. And so it was a time in my life where I was going through a lot of changes. And, color analysis, I was trying to find something that was going to make me feel better about myself and how I saw myself and perceived for myself. And it was something that I discovered not only gave me, let me feel like I liked what I saw in the mirror, but also just gave me this profound confidence about how people were also seeing me. And that kind of moved me forward. It certainly, I had a few years to go. But I pulled from that because usually most people that come to wanting to get their colors done or up their style, it's because they're usually going through something. It doesn't have to be as traumatic as a loss, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it's positive things too, right? It doesn't have to be negative. It can be they're in a new relationship or sometimes divorce is a positive thing. I'm not gonna lie, but no matter what, I think we are constantly evolving. We are constantly changing as people, and it's very natural to look at yourself in the mirror one day and realize, I'm not sure I recognize who that is anymore, and what do I have to do to get back to myself? And for me, color is something that I feel is very connecting to yourself, because when you finally find a color or a couple colors that you're like, yeah, I love wearing that color. It starts to express who you are. You're telling the world, this is who I am. I love wearing red, and here, this is who I am. And that's an amazing way to reconnect with yourself. And I think when people come to us, sometimes they share stuff, sometimes they don't. But I think ultimately they appreciate that they're getting back to their true selves so that they can move themselves forward with confidence.
Oh, I love that. And Dr. Zakia, we've had conversation about authenticity, and I know we talked about it earlier, but we've talked about image and, and really owning that, especially when you are moving into the place of owning your brand, whether you're in corporate or otherwise. Can you talk to them a little bit about your journey to owning you and your brand, because I know that you come from a particular background, it wasn't accepted, so you moved into another one. Can you talk a little bit about that and just, like that, the whole image piece and the importance of being confident with who you are and your image?
Sure. So, yes, I did. I spoke a little bit about it last year. And I understand that when people see me, they don't necessarily see doctor, right? I graduated from high school when I was 16. I was put up 3 times and held back once because I switched schools, went straight to college, got my bachelor's from University of Cincinnati at 20 in psychology and criminal justice, took a year off. And in that year, I explored along with my cousin Silver for her own point. We did a lot of traveling together, and in that traveling, I did a lot of music videos. I did magazines, including King. I did Sweets. I did Show. Men's magazines. And in that process, I applied to go back to school for my master's. Got accepted. I have my Master of Science in Industrial and Organizational Psychology from Northern Kentucky University. But when I had that period, when I was doing the magazines and when I was modeling for my family, I grew up in a very conservative family. I went to private school. It was ingrained in me that I was going to college. But unfortunately, when I graduated with my bachelor's, I graduated at one of the worst economic periods in the United States. I graduated in 2010 with a bachelor's that I couldn't do anything with. I did an internship with the city of Cincinnati. It was supposed to be a 2-year guaranteed contract, and it was supposed to be paid. Not only was it not paid, I also did not get a job because they were in the process of layoffs that they were committed to for 2 years. And so after sitting around for, not necessarily sitting around, but putting in applications and being told no over and over again, 2011, I made a commitment. I told my mom, I told my cousins, I was like, 2011 is going to be different. I started getting in my car and driving, and I made multiple trips back and forth to Atlanta, and that's how the whole music videos, magazines started. There was no real end goal. This was really something that kind of came. People kept approaching me, and I finally took a chance on it, and I did it. But was my family necessarily pleased? No, but it is a part of my story. And I wouldn't have the confidence that I have now had it not been for that part of my story. And I think the best takeaway from that part of my story is I met some great people. It showed me a lot about myself, but it ultimately took me full circle back to my roots of academics, right? I was a straight A student. I never stopped being an intellect. And I was having a conversation with a young lady in the bathroom, and I think that this world likes to separate aesthetics, intellect from beauty. And that shouldn't be the case. We should be able to walk into the room aesthetically put together, have that attention, and still be respected for what we can bring intellectually. That should not be separated. And so one of the things that I have definitely garnished or gotten to know in these last couple years through my business, increased self-awareness, and I like to call it the 3 keys to leadership. So self-awareness, emotional IQ, and self-efficacy. But these are things that you have to work with intentionally and that you have to work on intentionally. You aren't just going to grow. It doesn't just happen. You have to make a decision to be different and know that you want this change to happen. If you don't make that decision, then change doesn't happen. So, yeah, that's kind of how I got here. I did work in education with K to 8 for a little bit. I was curating curriculum for students who are behind on the learning curve. Did that, resigned, and went full time with my business. And I'll say the same thing I said last year. I would do it all over again if I knew that this would be the result.
That's good. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Yes, it deserves a round of applause. Okay, Dr. Erica, you had also had a very high level position, right, at a national or I don't know, international, I guess, company. Talk to us about the courage that it takes to really bank on yourself as a brand beyond being in an office for someone or being in spaces that, are defined for you. What kind of courage does it take for you to just go, you know what, today I'm quitting and I'm banking on myself, moving forward with no real plan?
Yeah, listen. These ladies have a story. Everybody has a story. I have lots of stories. But the thing is, for me, I think, I don't know, I got married at 18. I had 2 sons by the time I was 21. Divorced at 30, right? Because I didn't like him. And I didn't like the direction that he was moving in. And I'm like, nope, and I don't want to do this. My oldest son was born with sickle cell. And I needed to figure out how to balance all of this being single, because I knew I was going to divorce him probably when we got married, but that's another thing. But yeah, just like Doc here said, a lot of things my family didn't necessarily agree on, right? You shouldn't be getting married. Now you shouldn't be getting divorced. Now you shouldn't be doing this, but nobody was paying my bills. And education was something that I decided earlier on. Once I got my associate's degree, I'm like, okay, this is not enough, right? What job am I going to get with this? I got a bachelor's degree. Like you said, what you going to do with this? This ain't enough. I'm like, let me get a master's degree. But as I was doing each thing, I was building on. And so I decided that working for somebody is great because all of the companies that I worked for were great. It gave me an opportunity to build me. See, what they didn't realize is that while I'm in here doing what y'all tell me to do, I'm taking some things along with me now. I definitely suggest for anybody, as you learn, don't just do what they're telling you to do, right? You have a job to do, right? Everybody has a job to do, but you got to take some stuff. So as I was given, I was getting, and I'm like, yeah, I got to get for me. And so each company that I worked for, large companies, but again, being the VP of HR, everybody looks at you like, wow, oh, you're the VP of HR, you're sitting at the throne. Well, yeah, I was sitting at that throne, but I was building mine also outside of that. So, yeah. And then, of course, I had kids, so by the time my kids were in high school, I grew up with my kids, right? My son's 32. My other son is 30 something, 32, I don't know, 30 something, but, being a young parent and then growing with your kids and then trying to figure out life, I couldn't worry about all of those things. And I certainly couldn't worry about punching somebody's clock every day. And like I said, I was looking out the window, literally looking out the window one day, traffic was going. I was stressed out. My son was playing lacrosse. I needed to get to his game. I needed to travel the next day. I needed to do all of these things. And I just decided, I don't want to do this anymore. I need to figure out how I can help other people, how I can build, how I can grow. And I had no idea where the money was going to come from. So when I called my manager in that day, I'll never forget, I called her in and she said, yeah, what's going on? And, she was one of those, show up at work at 6 a.m. She didn't leave till 8 p.m. She had a nanny. She had a husband. She had kids, but her husband was cheating on her. You know why? Because she was married to the job. So, and I'm looking at her like, this ain't it. So she in there crying every day, and I ain't telling her business. Y'all don't know who she is. But it's reality. This is reality, right? And I'm looking at her. She was great at her job, but horrible at home. You don't even know your kids. Your husband sleeping with the nanny. The kids, they call her mommy. And I'm just like, wow, why do you keep doing this? Why? And then when I told her I was quitting, she cried. She was just like, I wish I had the courage to do what you're doing. And I'm like, well, you better figure it out. Because that husband going to be leaving you too. And then you going to be, and it happened. That's reality. So anyway, fast forward, I decided that I'm going to do what I wanted to do. And I will say this, I'll share this in all transparency. I love my husband. So I've been married now 20 more years. I've been married a long time. First time I was married 13 years. This time I've been married almost 20. But even initially, when I decided to start my business, my husband wasn't my biggest cheerleader. He wasn't, and people don't get it twisted. My husband does everything for me, right? But he was just like, oh, I don't think that's a good idea. Oh, okay. Because you could be next. Right? On the chopping block. I don't know if he's looking. I hope not. But for real. Because it's just like, you know what? Because people who don't bet on you will leave you. When they don't believe in what you're doing, they like, oh, that's not going to work. He said, this is not going to work. You should wait. And I said, okay, maybe you should too. And here I am almost 10 years later in business. And now he's like booking my flights and talking about, can I come with you? No, boy, you ain't coming. But I'm just real. I just like keep it real. That's why he takes care of me. He's like, oh, that's going to work. She good. Yeah, that's right. So I always say, find somebody who don't believe in you and then show them.
And show them. And then show them. I love that. That is. And then show them. I have one more question for Jen, and then we'll take some from the audience. So, Jen, we talked here about the internal stuff, right? And then so once they get to you, it's really like, how do I express this outwardly? What is the hesitation do you feel like that people have when they're in this space of like, I'm ready to go, but I'm still hesitant to kind of like take it to that next step with you?
Fear is real, and a fear of really showing the world who you are, or maybe who you really want to be, and have been doing the same thing for so long. And although it's simply a color, if you're someone that's defaulted to black or beige for years, and that's how people identify you, and you've kind of identified yourself that way, and now you're ready to step up, and I want to know my colors, and I want to feel better. It is still, I think, very scary to then accept that, try a color, because then they're like, well, then I'll look different. Then people will look at me differently. What if they, what if I walk into a room and they're like, oh, who are you trying to be? Kind of a thing. And that is something that I come across a lot. And we just take it in small steps. So some clients are super excited and they're ready to like throw out their wardrobe and go shopping, and I'm like, whoa, slow down. Unless you can afford to do that, let's slow down a little bit. But then the same thing is true for someone that I give them this beautiful colors. I recommend, this will look so beautiful on you, and they are just like, no, I'm not. My mother says I look terrible in that color or whatever it is, and so we take it in small steps. And I think this is just something that it resonates with me when you were saying, you build on things. Well, you build on this. So you start easy. Like, okay, let's just find your best neutrals. Find your best neutrals. That's safe, right? And then, and then we remove some stuff. And then we try one color. What color are you willing to try this time? And we build on it. And when they finally wear something that's slightly different, stretching them just a tiny bit out of their comfort zone, they'll get a compliment. Somebody will say something to them. Their partner might be like, "Oh wow, you look so beautiful in that color," and then then all of a sudden it starts to kind of like open up the gates, and you want to do more and more. So everyone's different. Everybody's willing to step out of their comfort zone in different steps. Some people are right out there, and others have to kind of sort of coach along.
And everything in between.
Yeah.
And everything in between. And I love that, there is this internal stretching that we have to have. And then there's also the external that has to take place too, to fully have a cohesive understanding of what your brand is, both on the inside and out. So thank you for sharing. Any questions from the audience? We'll take 2 questions from the audience or from our chat. Any questions? Yes. I'm going to repeat that just for the live stream. What were some of your challenges transitioning from thing to thing?
Money.
That is the challenge.
Money. We're underfunded. We don't get to walk into the bank and say, "Oh, I have a great idea and I just need, $500,000." It's just money. That was the biggest thing. Money, and then honestly, I don't know if you guys do this. I keep notebooks when I'm doing things. So when I was applying for jobs, I kept notebooks, and every time I got a no, I would, cross it off. I had like 3 or 4 notebooks of no's. I did the same thing in business. I had vendors that would tell me no because they're like, "I've never heard of you. Who are you? You have competitors that's been in business for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Why should we sell to you? Why should we help you?" I mean, this is literally what they were saying. Now, remember, this was 2014 when I started my business, right? So social media wasn't really a thing. None of that was really. So all of the no's. So I had like probably 10 notebooks full of no's, literally. But when I think, I can't remember when it was, probably pandemic, right? Because that's a couple of years ago. But I got my first sponsorship with MasterCard and Jennifer Hudson. And I got I'm sorry, that was after I got asked to be on the Drew Barrymore show. Once those same people saw me on the Drew Barrymore show and they saw that Drew gave me a check, everybody started
Isn't
calling.
that so funny?
It's so funny.
It's
but you know
so
what
funny.
I did? But I looked back through that notebook and I said,
No.
I talked to you on this date and you told me no. I don't want to do business with you. No, thank you.
That's good. That's powerful. Thank you. Okay, can we share how they can find you? Share, I know that you both have books. So share how they can get those. And then we will transition to the next thing.
Okay, so I have Instagram, Twitter, not really all that great on LinkedIn, but I do have it. It's Dr.Kia Renee, KIYARENAE. I was able to debut this book here last year, 365 Days of Leadership. And I was so honored to have Dr. TT. Yes, she gave me her thoughts. I have her her
I'm in
love
there,
notes
guys.
in the front.
I'm in there.
Yes, she is. So I do have a few copies. I wasn't able to bring them last year, so I have them with me this year. I think I'm gonna set up at one of these little tables outside after we finish. So I do have this, and I get to debut these here. Goal guide. So, so yes, I actually just released these 2 weeks ago. I haven't posted them or anything. And it really is just a way to structure your thoughts, give you that day to day. It has a schedule in there. It has core questions that you should ask yourself throughout the day, like what are my priorities for the day? 1, 2, and 3. Do I have the tools to accomplish this today? Your priority on 3 on Monday might be priority number 1 on Tuesday, and then it has a space where you can come back at the end of each day. Okay, let's release our thoughts. Let's decompress. What can I control in the now, and what can I let go of? So it has that for each day. In the front, it has an overview of the 3 keys: self-awareness, emotional IQ, and self-efficacy. And then at the back, there are diagrams for each of them. So you can look up the emotion wheel. Yes, it is a lot, but you can look up the emotion wheel and stuff. It's in here somewhere, y'all, I promise. You can look up the emotion wheel, but my thing is you typically see these things separately, right? Why not have them all in one place? So you have the self-efficacy diagram, the emotion wheel, and then you also have a self-awareness wheel. But yes, there are 4. This one has daily encouraging quotes. I have one with daily Bible verses. I have one with daily affirmations. And then I have one with a challenge to affirm. So you literally write in your own affirmation on a daily basis. And this is just for 13 weeks.
Thanks. So, and you'll be around, right? You'll be around.
Yes. Yes, I'll be around.
She ran away with it. Okay. Give us your, how they can find you.
You can find me. I'm on every platform, but the Wig Doctor is going to be DR. So it's the Wig Doctor. So I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and TikTok. And I got books and stuff, but don't worry about that. Send people to me who are in this space of breast cancer and hair loss so that they can get real information, not be sold on a whole lot of products and gimmicks, but getting education. That's key for me. So if y'all know anybody in those spaces, yes.
Thank you. Yep. And then Jen?
So I am on YouTube, have a lot on YouTube. So if you like videos, you'll love the YouTube, website and Instagram, all your color styles. So if any of those handles work, you can also just Google my name, Jen Vax, and I will pop up for sure all about color. And so if you're interested, even at just as a curiosity level, if you go to the website, yourcolorstyle.com, there's a quiz. It walks you through our methodology, and people have some pretty good success figuring out some colors for themselves. So I hope that you stop by and thank you.
Yay! Thank you. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you, ladies. We're gonna get a quick photo. And then if I can get Shannon come back up here. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. One more round of applause for